I'm Mark.
I'm Josh.
And this is Alter Ego Comics TV for the week of September 14th, 2011. The second full week of DC New 52. Maybe the third, if you count Justice League coming out on the 31st. But we got another batch of 13 new #1 titles from DC in this week. And we're going to kick things off with
Superboy #1. This is by Scott Lobel. And Superboy seems to be seeing some not insignificant changes to his origin in the New 52. And it's taking actually some cues from the feel of the Superboy mini during Flashpoint, or the Project Superman mini during Flashpoint. And it was a good read. It didn't require really any previous knowledge of the character, which is exactly what they should be going for with the 52 issues, and I really enjoyed it.
Next up, Frankenstein, Agent of Shade, issue #1. This is written by Jeff Lemire. And I'm really becoming a fan of his work. He did the Flashpoint Frankenstein miniseries, which totally blew me away and surprised me. Out of the Flashpoint series, it was the one I liked the most. His Animal Man, which came out last week, was near the top of my list, if not at the top of the list, for my favorite New 52 books last week. And this week, Frankenstein, Agent of Shade is right up there again. For those of you that are fans of the character Hellboy or BPRD, I would highly recommend that you check this out. It has a very similar feel to it. It's kind of an occult supernatural team that works for the pseudo government or works for the government in some kind of way. With Frankenstein being the Hellboy character, you actually have an amphibious character similar to Abe Sapien. You have basically, if you're a Universal Monsters fan too, you want to check this out because the team is made up of pseudo creature from the Black Lagoon, pseudo mummy, pseudo Wolfman, pseudo Dracula. Their leader is Father Time, who has transferred his essence into the body of what appears to be a 10-year-old girl, and she wears a mask for some reason. I'm not really sure. But it was a lot of fun. It was really solid, and I hope that you check it out. It really deserves your attention.
Next up, we got Deathstroke 1 by Kyle Higgins. This Deathstroke is a great character, a classic, beloved DC character. And back during the days of the New Teen Titans, he was terrifying and awesome and just the best he was at what he did. And over the years, it's kind of gotten diluted a little bit with, oh, I care about my kids and this blah, 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 and emotional and character development stuff, which was really good, but it kind of got away from the core Deathstroke stories that we love. And that's what this is coming back to. Deathstroke is the best there is at what he does, and what he does is killing people. And so if you enjoy, mercenaries, a lot of fun, action-y stuff, it's a great read.
Resurrection Man #1 by Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning, the team that brought us the recent Marvel Cosmic stuff, as well as a bunch of other stuff. They're reviving Resurrection Man. They're resurrecting Resurrection Man. This is a character that they created back in the 90s, and I honestly knew nothing about prior to picking up this first issue. And everything you need to know is in this issue about this character. You don't have to know anything about it, again, which is what the New 52 is supposed to be doing. It's supposed to be an easy entry point, and this issue absolutely is. And it's another one that may not be on everybody's radar, but absolutely deserve your attention. Resurrection Man is a character who, every time that he is killed, every time that he dies, he is resurrected with a new power. And part of the fun is him figuring out what this power is and how he's going to use it, and how he's explaining how he realizes what that power is. There's a scene in an airport which is really cool. And basically, because his soul has been around for so long, there's a war between what appears to be angels and demons, or heaven and hell, to get the soul of the Resurrection Man. And it looks like it's going to be a fantastic series, off the beaten path, not a typical superhero book, but a well-written, well-drawn, great comic book.
Suicide Squad #1, written by Adam Glass. We've got the newest iteration of the Suicide Squad, and this is another one that does a great job of starting you from zero. You may recognize some of the characters in here. We've got King Shark, or whatever his name is, the giant shark guy. You got Harley Quinn, you've got Deadshot, you've got some other miscellaneous DC characters.
Amanda Waller.
Amanda Waller, who looks nothing like the old Amanda Waller.
Looks like Halle Berry now.
Basically. And it's setting up where the new Suicide Squad is at, and you kind of see it at the ground level as these characters are entering the program, and it's a good pickup.
Got a slew of #1s from other publishers this week, including Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 9, issue #1. This one is written by Buffy creator Joss Whedon. It carries over and continues on from Season 8, and for those of you who weren't aware that the Buffy the Vampire Slayer series has continued in comics, it's been going on for about 3 or 4 years now, and Season 8 took 3 years to tell the story. And we've got all of those graphic novels available if you want to jump in, or you can just jump in with season 9, issue number 1. I hadn't read Buffy for a little while. I was familiar with the general premise of what had happened and was able to pick this up very easily and enjoy it. As a fan of the TV show, I think that fans of the show absolutely should be picking up this comic. It was a fun read.
Red Lanterns #1, written by Peter Milligan, art by Ed Benez. I'll be the first to admit that I'm not a huge fan of the entire spectrum of Green Lantern teams, and I had a great deal of trepidation about Red Lanterns because they're essentially rage and spitting blood, which, while cool, is not especially great from a story standpoint. But they did a wonderful job in this first issue of making me care about Atrocitus and about the things going on and the interaction between the different lanterns. Plus, they have Dexar, and everyone needs a cat.
I don't. Maybe Dexar, but not any other cat. Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate Comics, Ultimate Spider-Man, Marvel. Whoever's coming up with these names, Marvel, needs to be fired immediately. Let's not pull any punches here. The naming of your comics sucks, okay? Come up with a better name for your comics. Having said that, I really enjoyed this issue of Ultimate Comics, Ultimate Spider-Man, or Ultimate Comics Spider-Man. This is the first full issue with the new Ultimate Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, Bendis is a master of his craft. I mean, he's a great writer. He's able to write great character pieces. He writes great dialogue, and he's carrying that over into this new title. The artwork by Sarah Pichelli is excellent as well, and I honestly am interested to see what happens with this new person who has acquired spider-like powers. Everybody was all up in arms when they killed Ultimate Peter Parker. Well, that happens sometimes. People die, but here's the chance, much like the DC New 52, here is a perfect jumping on point, a perfect entry point for lapsed readers, for new readers, and for those of you that just enjoy good comics to see what is going to happen with this new character.
Got Journey into Mystery 627 by Kieran Gillen. This is essentially a self-contained kind of one-off. You don't need to have read the other Journey into Mysteries to follow it. And essentially the entire story is Mephisto walks into a bar and tells some stories, and it's really, really good. They do a great job of characterizing Mephisto, making him, I mean, they're not changing the character. He's still evil and Satan, essentially. But there's a lot of characterization. It makes him fun. It makes him reasonably likable while he's telling these stories. And it does tie into the larger Journey into Mystery story. It adds to that if you're already familiar with it, but you don't need to know it. And it does a good job of giving you a positional feel on Fear itself. So definitely worth a read.
New Avengers, issue number 16, also written by Brian Michael Bendis, artwork by Mike Deodato. And as you can tell from the cover, a certain blind attorney who may or may not be Daredevil joins the team. And this is an incredible issue. New Avengers runs hot and cold for me, unfortunately, probably because there are so many different Avengers teams. But this is your street level Avengers team led by Luke Cage and given carte blanche by Steve Rogers to do basically whatever they need to do to keep the world safe. And this issue takes place during Fear itself and almost entirely focuses on Daredevil. And it's the new Mark Waid era Daredevil where he is not all brooding and I hate myself and my life is horrible and everyone's out to get me and oh, I'm a demon and all this other stuff that goes on. There's some amazing artwork in this by Deodato. Some great double-page spreads of Daredevil saving people, of Daredevil wielding a Gatling gun. For the artwork alone, you should pick up this issue. But if you're a Daredevil fan, this appears to be the beginning of a new era where Daredevil is actually an Avenger. He has turned down membership time after time, and looks like he's accepting this time.
And Fear Itself 6 of 7, written by Matt Fraction, art by Stuart Immonen and Wade von Graubacher. Graubacher, he's the colorist, right?
That guy.
Anchor,
Yes.
that guy.
Scumberly-umptious.
Graubacher. Fear Itself has been uneven, but this is the start, hopefully, of an excellent finish. I can easily say this is the first truly great issue of Fear Itself. We have a lot of great character interaction with Odin and Steve Rogers and Thor and Iron Man, and it really feels more like a big event book, and it's actually going towards something, so it's awesome.
Speaking of awesome, our friend Scott Snyder and his buddy Scott Tuft, along with artist Attila Futaki, bring us Severed issue number 2. This is a horror series from Image Comics, and this issue is a step above the first issue, which we both really enjoyed. So while the first issue was really solid, this is excellent. And if you like kind of slow burn horror stories, I like that it takes place during the 1920s or the early 1900s. So it's got a historical element to it, and they did a lot of research as far as making sure that the cars looked right and the clothing looked right and the way that people were talking was accurate. It is. I am not traditionally a horror fan, but I have enjoyed every book that Scott Snyder has written, from American Vampire to Detective Comics to his creator on stuff at Severed and Swamp Thing last week. It really deserves your attention again. If you like good comics, regardless of the genre that you appreciate the most, you should pick up Severed. And by the way, we were sold out of the first issue for a little while, but we do have second printings of the first issue in stock now, so you can pick up 1 and 2 and get on board.
My pick of the week is Demon Knights #1 by Paul Cornell. This is a slightly different part of the New 52, as it takes place during the medieval era, but you're still seeing a lot of classic DC characters, some of the more long-lived ones like Madame Xanadu, Vandal Savage, Etrigan the Demon, and Jason Blood, and it's really good. It does a great job of feeling like an adventure story, a classic fantasy in like Willow or Lord of the Rings, and if you like that time period, if you like DC characters, a lot of the magic stuff, it's very, very good.
Out in graphic novel format this week is Driver for the Dead, the complete series, and this is one where when we got the preview in for Free Comic Book Day 2 years ago, I think it was, the staff all checked it out and we all really enjoyed it. It was from this little publisher called Radical that most of us weren't familiar with, by a writer, John Heffernan, which most of us weren't familiar with, and it totally blew us away. It's about a hearse driver for the occult side, or how do I phrase this? I'm struggling.
He's a specialist hearse driver who, if you need a body moved discreetly or quickly, maybe a vampire has to go back before sunrise to go back in his soil, or something else, if a body has to be protected and ferried along the way, he's the guy you call.
He's the guy. He's the driver for the dead. Right. And he's called to drive a character that looks a lot like Morgan Freeman, who was kind of a voodoo expert in New Orleans, to escort his body to his final resting place. And there are demons, there are cool stuff from the South, there's great dialogue, there's action, there's guns. It's just got everything a good comic should have. And again, it was one that flew under the radar from a publisher that a lot of times you folks, our customers, and those of you that aren't our customers, you kind of have blinders on sometimes, and it's just Marvel, DC, and we don't look at anything else. This is something that deserves your attention, and there's so much great stuff out from some of these other publishers, stuff that we mentioned like Severed and Buffy from Dark Horse, a wide variety to choose from. And Driver for the Dead, if you're looking for a great action/horror comic, this is the one you want to check out. And it's all in one nice collected edition. That'll do it for this week. We're expecting an avalanche of new stuff next week too, including the most anticipated DC book for me, Batman #1 by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. So check back next week, and we'll see you then.